when you are building a buyer's confidence is going to help you not only win more clients because of the word of mouth behind you actually having a bigger discussion behind what the transaction means and what it's going to do for them, but it's going to put you in a position that you can stop explaining things like process. That buyer's communication, that initial presentation, if you will, should set the expectations. It should demonstrate your value as a real estate agent. It should establish the working relationship from the very start. It sets you apart, the differentiator in the industry speak, from day one. It's got to include a summary of everything that you think the buyer is going to need. It needs to talk about market overview. It needs to talk about your property selections and their next steps. They need to know this is not easy. And the reason that they're working with an agent is because this situation can be combative, it can be cooperative, it can be strategic. There is a lot of negotiations. There are a ton of moving parts. The reason that we go through so much education to get this license and continuing education to stay adapt in the market is because it is not for the weak-hearted. Today, we're going to walk exactly how to build and what you should be building on to help gain more momentum in your buyer clients. We're going to talk about what you should be including in these talks, how you're going to position your expertise without overselling it, and then how to use even a presentation, whether a leave behind or video, depending on how you meet your clients. I realize not everybody's clients live nearby, but how to use this presentation to create a better alignment, a better confidence, and ultimately stronger commitment from your buyers. So let's go old school to new school. What was a buyer's presentation for real estate? The presentation was a very structured professional meeting. It outlined how you worked with your buyers, what they could expect in the home buying process. It was a slideshow while you as an agent spoke. It made you look professional because that's what they expect in industry. It gave you kind of a set of note cards that you knew what to speak through so you didn't lose focus. And it would typically take place inside of your initial conversation. The introduction to who you were, what you were all about, what were your business ideas, and what was your strategy to make sure you could help them find a successful home for them and their families, or an investment, and how they were going to move forward and how you were going to help them learn and educate so that the time that you were going to put in with them was going to be worth it. Unlike a casual buyer conversation, a buyer presentation was more intentional. It helped clarify roles. It showcased your expertise, your ability to strategize. It conveyed some clear, realistic expectations. It gave you the opportunity to really ask some questions. Today's buyers have access to listings. They have access to market data. They have advice from every corner of the internet. Hell, they have this channel. We don't just talk to agents, we talk to buyers, and we make buyers and sellers more educated as to the processes and the type of agents that they should be talking with. What often lacks is that clear understanding of how they're going to navigate that process, how they're going to be strategic from an expert's perspective. So this is something you can certainly offer. Given your firsthand experience in working with clients and handling negotiations efficiently, this will be second nature to you. Should be a very easy conversation. And for them, it should be a very high level professional discussion. It's going to help put you in a leadership role. It is not a, hey, Mr. Buyer or seller, I work for you and I'm going to do whatever you tell me. It is going to say, you are employing me with the expectation of a commission if I am successful to manage and solve the problems and the solutions that we are going to run into and need to successfully manage buying a home in this market against this general public. It should also reduce confusion. It should set realistic expectations. It should position you as an advisor rather than a salesperson. When you do this well, you will build a layer of trust early, and it will prevent issues later on in the transaction. So, what should be involved in this initial conversation? And it should be no less than 30 minutes. In fact, you should probably book an hour with your clients. If you can do this in person, fantastic. If you need to do this with a slideshow in the background while you're having a Zoom or a Teams meeting, even better. It's going to make it easier for you. You're going to be in your home court advantage. So, the comfort and the safety of your own office, while, sometimes you're meeting strangers on the other side. We're not all fortunate enough to only be working with friends and family. Sometimes we've got an aggressive personality on the other side of this transaction that we don't necessarily mesh well with. But your level of intelligence that you bring to this conversation shouldn't change. They should still respect you for what you're bringing to the table. So let's talk about what to include. First element is it needs personal information. You need to share a little bit about who you are. How long have you worked in real estate? And new agents, don't take that as a slight. You do not have to start day one as a rookie licensee and act like it's your first time in the real estate market. There was something that you decided, some element, some experience in your history that made you decide you wanted to do this professionally. Focus on that instead of the time. Focus on your experience rather than time in industry. That may help you get through that. For the rest of us, we get to talk about our time, our energy, our specialties, our successes, and some of our failures, but focus on the relevance, notable achievements, things that highlight your experience and your neighborhood knowledge for where we're going to be supporting them. You cannot say, I specialize in the state of Florida. If any of you live in the state of Florida, I can drive 20 minutes in any direction, and it is a different world in this state. Buyer goals and criteria. You need to be able to summarize very quickly what's being looked for and how to show that you've listened and that you're prepared for their commentary. You want to hear what is important to them, and that is what you focus on. Even in a pushback, your clients will bring you houses that they want to see that do not match their criteria, or meets the husband and not the wife, meets what the kids want but not what the family element wants. As a single buyer, what he expects or she expects to be able to do in the next 5 years doesn't align to this beautiful property that they found on the market. Home buying overview. It needs to break down the process. Hey, here's how we're starting today. This is the crux of our foundation of our relationship. This is important. We're going to ride on this a lot, but we need to be very clear about process and manageable steps. You can give them a 35,000 foot overview of everything that's going to happen right now, but then please reassure them you do not have to remember all those things today. As we get to stage one, I will tell you what's coming in stage two if we are successful. I will tell you while we're in stage two what's coming for stage three if we are successful. It continues to move them down a logical process. For those clients that are planners, this will resonate very comfortably with them. For those clients that just need to know, or what do I need to expect next, this will quelch that expectation as well, minimizing anxiety. Local market snapshots. You need to reassure your client that what's happening in their target area and what's meaningful to their strategy, you're going to be on top of. And I mean daily. This is what happened 6 months ago, doesn't necessarily reflect on today. I speak to and with a leadership board of brokers every quarter, and I hear the same old things. It's funny, the same things that used to terrify me in big industry when I would hear people say, this is how we've done business this long, and this is how we've been successful. The worst words to ever come out of a CEO's mouth. And now I've got clients and I've got brokerages and I've got agents doing the same thing. Well, this is how we did it before. The business hasn't changed, just the market has shifted. Bullshit. Everything has changed in the last 5 years, and it has changed almost year over year over year, not just for the client, but also for the expectations that are being held inside of the transaction. The paperwork has changed. The process has changed. Who we're dealing with has changed, and how we deal with them. All of that is different. Financial expectations. Agents, I realize this is encroaching on your line of responsibility, but there is a financial expectation for your clients. They need to know what's the realistic mindset around getting your pre-approval. What is your affordability? What's your buying power? And how much is this going to cost? And I mean, how much am I coming? What is the down payment versus the deposit for escrow? What is my PITI? What the hell does that acronym mean? They are inundated with great information on the internet, but have no idea how to put all those pieces together. They need you. They need you for understanding, and they need to know the way it's been successful for you to manage it in the past. Representation. How are you going to find, evaluate, and represent houses for them? How are you going to find that information and get that in front of them? These are all important things. When you're introducing buyer agency and you can explain how representation works, you make sure to leave enough space for the buyer to ask questions. So this is going to be that topic that might feel a little overwhelming because, again, they're going to be all over the place. But this is your chance to really hear them out. You'll figure out what they know, what their experience has been in buying and selling properties too, and how you're going to be able to move forward with them. If they are a well-educated buyer or seller and this is not their first rodeo, you want to find out what they think they did right or what they may have struggled with so you can enhance and make a smoother transaction for them. First-time home buyers, you want to know what they think they know, because you need to be the light of reality moving them forward. You need to make sure you have a clear plan and can explain next steps in a way that they can understand it. And you do that with all of this initial conversation. If you're going to actually create a buyer's template, if you're going to create a physical presentation to go with it, we give you some quick tips. Please start with something that looks professional. Buyer's presentation doesn't have to be flashy, but it needs to be organized, easy to follow. Your brokerage should be able to help you with this. And let's be honest, this is how you essentially set your brand in the mind of the client. If this isn't something you would be comfortable leaving behind and their best friend walk into the house and pick it up off the coffee table and go, wow, this is pro level stuff. This is really nice. Is this the agency that you're working with? And if it's I could do this in Canva. Oh, cool. I could do this on my 1987 edition of PowerPoint. If that is what they are seeing, don't do the presentation. Make sure that your presentation is going to leverage the buyer's intelligence. The most effective ones are that expectation has started before the meeting ever happens. So you got to use that kind of information so that you can gather things. Needs to have a page on explaining the home buyer's process. There are some good ones out there, but again, if you're going to walk through those steps, you can easily push back to, just like in the presentation that I gave to you, make sure you're following that process along. We're in part 3 where we are making the offer. We've handled your financing. We've done the home shopping. Now we're going to start the process of making an offer and negotiating. These are all things that they can do, that they can follow up on after talking to you. Present the market with context. People are incredibly visual, and especially today where the numbers are difficult. Look, you're even seeing it with our new administration and the presidency. They are coming to the Senate and the House floors today with big charts and big understandings and logical pictures so that the American people can follow along. They are in that business, but they need to learn how to market it better to the American people so that we know what we're voting on, for, against, whatever. So when you're doing real estate, it's the same. When you're talking about a market analysis, don't just talk about the median sales price that has fallen or risen. Don't just talk about median days on the market as if they have any idea what that means. Major takeaways, buyers in your town are facing this. These are all things that you want to have a good little picture that they can reflect back to help solidify all of this information, because it's a lot. Next, you want to show how you're going to help them find the right house. So kind of go through what are the listing features that you look at. What do you focus on when you're explaining your search and your strategy? How do you talk about the screen properties? You identify red flags, you align homes. They should feel comfortable sending you a house that they want more information on before you schedule a showing. It should never be a, hey, here's 3 houses I want to go see tomorrow. No, here's 3 houses you want me to start investigating to find out if it matches all of your expectations and criteria and meets all of your qualifying on your financial statements potentially or your financial plan, and it doesn't go above or beyond any of those markers that you have set with your buying power and with your financial agent that's riding side saddle with you on this deal, so they can make absolutely sure that you're not going to find the house of your dreams only to have to tell them you can't afford this. Pro tips: if you're going to put together presentations, it needs to have high resolution images, needs to have interactive virtual tours, authentic client testimonials if you're going to use those. If you want to establish credibility, they need to be able to see it not only on your presentation, but go online and see in the same information. Present the financing options too. So you're not a lender. Again, draw those lines, but buyers expect some guidance around the financial side. And honestly, if their financial advisor or their MLO is giving them advice that doesn't sound like something you have heard in your experience, you need to be okay. That's interesting. That's new. I haven't heard that way before. Would you mind if I talk to your lender and get some better understanding? Don't be afraid to do that. You pushing back on something that you are going to need to help them with is smart, because you've already got to handle general concepts, right? What's the down payment? What's the closing cost? What are ongoing expenses? What is my total cost of ownership? They have no idea that all that's coming. They're so focused on the purchase, they have no idea what they got to do once they do it. Always reinforce, please, that you need to work closely with their mortgage professional. You may have helped them even select that mortgage professional based on speed to close that they need, but please avoid giving specific financial feedback. That's not your industry. Their business has changed year over year in the last 5 years too, so don't put yourself in that position. And then introduce your buyer representation very clearly. The buyer agency should never be an afterthought. We just had a class on that. You can see it here. I want to make absolutely sure that you use that presentation to explain exactly what representation means. How do you protect them? What are your responsibilities as you are their agent? Walk through the buyer representation agreement. Highlight key sections so they can see it for themselves, such as words like exclusivity, scope of service, compensation. Transparency here is going to help you build and prevent misunderstandings later. They need to know it's coming, and they need to not have to review every document for an hour before it gets back to you. You have to also do representation documents for every single property you go look at. Repeat. For my agents in the room that are doing this wrong and are putting to be determined or putting the city of Riverview instead of an address, you're wrong. You're going to get in trouble. Every time you show a property, it gets its own form. Look me in the eyes. As your broker, if you showed a property without that form properly signed before you moved forward with a transaction, you will not get paid. End clear with your clients on next steps. Close by outlining what's going to happen next. Again, whether that's scheduling the showings, connecting with the lender, refining the search criteria, because now you've met together and they may have a different understanding of how they want to move forward. Set those expectations around that timing and communicate so that the buyers know exactly what to do. Pro tips. Role play. You need to know how to do this. It needs to be smooth. It needs to be as smooth as me getting up here in front of you and being able to talk eloquently with good vocabulary, with not a lot of ands and uns and what sits and you know what it means. The more you practice, the easier this presentation is going to be to deliver. If you're not going to do it with a slide deck to keep you on course, you better be able to do it off the cuff. Deliver your presentation in person if possible. Realize, since COVID, we have a lot more of this screen time together, and that's fantastic. But ultimately, Humans are still humans. They crave for connection. It's going to be a whole lot better if, with them agreeing where you're going to get paid your commission and the amount of money that you're going to make based on that negotiation, a handshake will go a long way to keeping that deal clean and appreciated. If you're going to do this in person, use a large monitor. Don't try to do this off of your phone or just a small tablet. It's important for you to be able to give that presentation as if it's confidently being done inside of a conference room with a large monitor. If you can pool together with other agents so that your office can use those and you can do several of these together, fantastic. If you've got a broker that is superior in the room when they are talking to clients, do yourself a favor, set several of your buyers or your sellers that are interested in front of your broker to present to all of them at the same time. Field all of their questions. All of them seeing how busy your brokerage is only going to help you do more business. Break the ice. Don't overdo it, right? Start your presentations with a little bit of small talk. It's important for them to be comfortable talking to you, but it also has the potential to build a little bit of rapport, learning about somebody or their background or where they're from or their favorite baseball team, or if there's something relevant that's going on outside, like a parade or some type of sports event or something that's causing additional background noise, call attention to it. Make some small talk. Tell them how long the presentation is going to take. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever your style is, 15 minutes, leaving time for Q&A, whatever it is, they need to know up front. That way they can give you that attention or take that attention away, because you'll find out very quickly whether or not they actually have the time. Questions. Going to tell you. When you are asking questions, they need to be specific and they need to be open-ended, meaning they can never just answer yes or no. You need information and they need to be willing to provide it. If they don't have answers, then they haven't done that research and they're not at that point in the stage of presentation yet. You need to make absolutely sure to help them get there. How long have you been looking? Have you ever worked with a buyer's agent before? What do you find in a new home that's attractive, and why now? Why now are you shopping? What kind of monthly payment are you comfortable with, or what are you expecting? Are you experienced in the mortgage process and the financing needs? If you had to choose one, would you choose location, pricing, or a home? Is there a specific school district you want to be in? These are all things that are important. If this is going to be a commute for you, what's the farthest distance with traffic that you are willing to travel? How important is that to you? What's the best time of day that I can reach you? And how would you like to communicate? In today's day and age, this is critical. Are you a texter? Are you a caller? Do I need to text you before we talk? I don't know what your work day looks like, what your work hours are, so I'm not sure how to stage that. But I want to make sure we can have open communications. I may text you throughout the day. I do not require a response until you are free and available to talk. And when you talk, I am ready to have a conversation. Signatures. Do not ask them to sign an exclusive buyer agreement yet. And I realize that is against my own training. That is against what I learned when I started in this market. This is about set the appointment and get that signature. First time you meet them, it locks them in, it puts their skin in the game. Look, walk them through the disclosures, walk them through what this agency statement means, and say, you should not be signing an exclusive agreement with me or anybody else until you know better. Promise that you will earn their loyalty. When you're ready to ask for the signature, make it simple and straightforward. So we spent some time together. You've seen how I operate and how I do business. Now's the time for us to talk about that disclosure agreement, the exclusive buyer agreement to keep us committed to each other. How are you feeling? And then send them a copy of anything you present. Either have it printed so that you can leave it behind, or have it in a PDF format that you can email it to them. Don't worry, they are not going to take your strategy and share it with their cousin who wants to get in real estate. And if they do, great, be flattered. Remember that knowledge is confidence. So walk into all of this confidently, because if you can portray that, you're going to easily get the information that you want and be able to use and show off your skills day one. With all of that, I can't say that there aren't some mistakes. There are definitely some common presentation mistakes to avoid and some communication mistakes to avoid with your clients. I want you to focus on avoiding mistakes that will keep the focus elsewhere. You need to be clear. You need to keep their focus where it belongs. Be professional, be service oriented. You work for them. They need to trust you. And ultimately, that's what's going to set you apart from all the other agents out there. Just talking to a broker the other day, blind compliment to each other on the same day that we appreciate the professionalism working together. This transcends just working with your clients. The professionalism and the honesty and transparency that you show to other agents and other brokers and other brokerages goes a long way. And with all of the different cogs in the machine that are making all of this work between your insurance agents, your financing MLOs, your inspectors, your appraisers, your closing officers, your title agents, you name it. There's a lot of people you got to not only be nice to, but they got to trust that you know what you're doing and you're not just feathering the bed to make a transaction happen. Make sure that you make the presentation about yourself and what you're doing and your exemplary service that you're setting the bar for. This is not about them. You're going to have plenty of time with them. Buyers care far more about what you can help them with and how you're going to help them succeed, why you went to school, and why you are licensed. So share your experience, but always tie it back to where it benefits them. You can put all of the accolades in the world of this is how many houses I've sold and all throughout these areas, blah, blah, blah. But if you can't tie it back to why it's beneficial to them, it's moot. Stop overloading your buyers with data. Market stats, charts, trends, these are cool, these are useful, but only when they're relevant to the conversation you had. Add them in as a visual component to nail down the discussion that you're having, something that they can mentally tie back to. But don't just throw a whole bunch of metrics at them. They're not in the analytics game. So dumping too much information in one meeting is just going to overwhelm them. It's going to dilute your message. It's going to be all about the pictures. Focus on what directly affects their decision making. Next, I would say avoid the buyer agency conversation. Skipping it or downplaying buyer representation is going to create that confusion that always leads to issues later. Be very upfront with this whole thing. Clear, confident explanation of buyer agency early on is going to protect you and the client. And when the paperwork comes out that they need to signature, contract agreement, agree to your representation, it's going to make this a whole lot easier to put in front of everybody. And sometimes it's not just one, it's a couple, it's a family, it's an agency. It could be a lot of things. Do not treat this presentation like a sales pitch. Buyers are quick to tune out anything out that feels like it's scripted, that feels like it's pushy or salesy. Your presentation and your discussion with them needs to feel like it's a working meeting. It's not a performance. Encourage questions, adapt the conversation as it unfolds. Leave things out if necessary to keep your client comfortable. If they start looking at their watch or start looking at the clock behind you, it's important for you to recognize there's a time constraint you're up against. And then finally, if you fail to set expectations around the communications and the timeline, you're setting yourself short. When buyers don't know what's going to happen next or how they're going to hear from you or how often they're going to hear from you, frustration will absolutely follow, and it builds quickly. They expect that you are the only person they're working with and that you only have them as a client. Obviously, that's not realistic. That wouldn't be a real good business model if that's how it happened in real estate. If it takes me 3 months to get a successful buyer to pick a property and then another 6 to 8 weeks to buy it, that is 2 clients a year, kids, and I need more than that to be successful in this industry. So look, A lot of information was thrown at you in a short amount of time today, and it's all important. But just like your presentation and your initial conversations, I need you to learn how to execute well. I need you to learn how to be effective, to be able to convert serious prospects and move them to a committed client. You need to be able to go from contact to contract. If you can't get those two things lit, your pipeline strategy is going to have a lot of runway on it and a lot more risk, because if they're not talking to you about real estate, they're talking to someone else. You need to show leadership. You need to build confidence daily. You need to set the tone for the entire relationship. You're the driver. When a buyer understands this entire process and they clearly see your value from day one, why working with you and your brokerage is important, this is an easy decision on how they move forward. Thanks everybody for a great day this morning. I am about to go celebrate my grandson's very first birthday. So happy birthday, Matthew. We love you, buddy. And we will see everybody soon. Take care, good business, and do great things. Welcome to the spring swing. Talk more about that next week. Bye-bye now.